Hey guys, Sandy here, and welcome to Follow a Sketch Friday. Today I am going to be playing with this page map sketch. It actually calls for 3 photos, but I don't have a photo in a 5x5 size, so I'm going to put 2 photos together. So I have 4 photos of Star Wars Land in Disneyland, and then I pulled out my absolute favorite piece of paper house paper. It is the Explore Your World paper. On one side it's a cut apart, but this yellow, I just love this yellow. I think it's a great paper. It's one of my favorites. And I also pulled out a couple of Echo Park papers. This Animal Safari paper from 2019, which has cut apart on one side and then kind of this plaid on the other. And then this paper from Getaway called Travel Stripe. And this is from 2014. There's the stripe, but I'm going to be using this because I think these colors together are gorgeous. So let's see what I can do. All right, so the first thing I did was go grab some more paper. I went and grabbed a sheet of khaki colored cardstock and a sheet of like a vanilla creamy off-white colored cardstock. The khaki cardstock is smooth, but the vanilla cardstock does have some texture to it. It is an American Crafts cardstock. The khaki came from close to my heart, in case you were wondering. Now, I did decide which way I wanted my papers to go. So I knew that I wanted the yellow and the plaid to be the background, and I knew I was going to map my photos with kind of that green color. But I wasn't sure which way I was going to like it better, whether it was to do the plaid on the bottom or the yellow on the bottom. Ultimately, I decided that the plaid on the bottom made more sense. It just felt more grounded. The color is darker, so that does make sense. And I decided that I wanted a little something in between the 2 layers, so that's where that khaki colored cardstock comes in, and I just have a very, very thin border all the way around it. Now, if you watched my Throwback Thursday video yesterday, you will see that I did this a lot back in 2009, where I would have these borders of backgrounds. And you know, it's something that I still do. I probably did it this time because it's fresh in my mind from flipping through that 2009 album. But if we go look at my albums right now, there's going to be a handful of layouts that still layer up papers this way. So once you find something that works for you, bring it back. Like, just bring it out every so often. I wouldn't say do every single page this way, but occasionally, you know, it feels good, so you do it. Now, I did decide to make my mat on these 2 photos a little bit larger than I had originally planned. I did cut my paper down to 4.5 by 8.5. And 6.5 by 8.5, and then mat up my photo, and I made sure that the sky was going to be up above because I am going to cover up a good part of the sky of this photo, and that is for 2 reasons. One, because there's nothing there but night sky and we're not really missing out on anything, and the second is all of my photo sizes are a little bit larger than what the sketch calls for. So I needed to make up the room and the space somehow. I do cut my photos down to 3.5 by 3, which is larger than what the sketch calls for. I am completely okay with that. And how I combat that with the sketch, I don't do such a large circular element over here on the left-hand side. I do bring in a smaller creamy colored fabric doily just because I figure that will give me the interest that this side of the page is going to need, so it doesn't look like the photos are so weighty on the right hand side of the page that they're just gonna like fall off at you. Now, I do not mind covering up photos with little bits and pieces. It's just not something that bothers me. This might bother some people that I have a good amount of this photo covered up, but like I said, and like you saw, The only thing you see is night sky, so it's not anything to really be worried about. In fact, I probably would have tossed that picture. Well, not really tossed it, since this is a Disney photo. So all of my leftover Disney photos that I don't scrapbook go into 4x6 pocketed page protectors, and they just live there. Like, they're just Disney photos that just didn't make it into the scrapbooks, but they're still Disney photos, and it's fun to look at them and see the difference between time periods. So that photo would have been one of those. Had I not been using this sketch, and had I not, tried to figure out something to do with it. Now, I did decide to go with these thickers. They are called Treasure. They have kind of like a newsprint and a sparkle to them, so I just spelled out the word whoa, because that's definitely the way Lana and I felt when we were walking around Star Wars Land over here. And it just was amazing. Like, you just felt like you were transported into Star Wars. Like, the details, the tiny little details were so perfect, and they got the big stuff right too. So it was just a wild experience. There were so many things to look at and so many things to see that we just kept walking around looking at the stuff, looking at the same stuff, because we would notice new things each time, and that was pretty cool. Now, the sketch over here has a subtitle and some embellishment a little bit below it, but I'm actually making the subtitle my title. There is a little bit of a subtitle where it says happiness right here, but that isn't necessarily a subtitle. That's just some word decoration, because I do like to decorate with words. So I don't really think that that's a subtitle. If you looked at that page and thought, man, that's a subtitle, hey, go for it. You do you, and you figure out what you want to think about it. I don't think I'm going to call it a subtitle. So there is the fabric doily that went down, and now I am playing with these Paper Studio kind of medallion stickers, and I figured out that they fit really well with these little brads. Now, the one brad, I pulled off the tines of it. This one doesn't have any on the back of it, and ultimately that little chipboard piece comes back. I didn't originally put the chipboard piece on there. It kind of, I know it's a nod to Cars Land. At least I think that's what Echo Park was doing when they made those, as a nod to Cars Land. But if you tone down the brightness, it's also a nod to Star Wars lands, right? That's the way I see it. So that does make an appearance. Again, I do mess around with this a little bit because I'm bringing in those gold edged banners, and I originally was going to have them folded over each other like I had down here by the title, but it looked too much matchy and too much the same. Now, sometimes I really do like my clusters to match, and sometimes I don't want them to, and in this case I did not want that complete matchiness going on, especially because I have multiple metals. My brad down here by the title is gold rimmed, and the brad up here at the top is silver rimmed, so I felt like less matchy the better. So I did go ahead and do my banners hanging down from the third one over here. And then there's that little chipboard piece, and I just take my blending foam that kind of lives on my caddy right here with some brown on it, and I go over that chipboard piece, and then I color in a little bit of the vanilla colored cardstock. Just because I felt like it needed a little bit. It needed a little something extra, other than that clean expanse of, creamy vanilla colored cardstock. So now I'm just figuring out what else I need to do to add to this page, and I decide to bring out my wood veneer dots. Essentially, they are enamel dots, but in wood. And I do 3 different sizes in each of the clusters. And I'm not really, I mean, they look like they're in triangles. You can form a triangle between them. But really what I was doing was placing the larger one down by the circular element and then kind of piling on the other 2, if that makes sense at all. I also added that Mickey head because there will be a hidden Mickey on every single page of this album. Some of them are not so hidden, and some of the pages for this album I haven't put the Mickey heads on yet. That will be one of the final things to do when I completely wrap up the album, but you know, this album that was supposed to be no more than 2 albums is probably going to stretch out to 3 or 4. There it is, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me for Follow a Sketch Friday. Make sure that you join the Scrapping Reflections Facebook group and post your take on the sketch in the group there. I will see you guys again real soon for another video.